Hello. Good morning, everybody. Very nice. Very nice. Welcome. Welcome to you all. And we're going to blow out of here, literally, after 11 o'clock because I blew in from Medina County. And the winds are whipping up 50 miles an hour. Gusts, and I feel like a weather person right now. And it was so foggy at my house, except for right around my house, which I don't know what that says about me, but maybe too much hot air, I don't know. But coming up 71, you could not see the front of your car. I was going to save my hand in front of my face, but you couldn't see the front of your car. So I am very happy to be here and to be on time, Tanisha. I want a gold star for that. Excellent. Thank you so much for being here today for the Cuyahoga County Division of Senior and Adult Services 5th Annual Advisory Annual Meeting. We are grateful for your time and your continued commitment to older adults in our community. And speaking of older adults, I started out not in your demographic 5 years ago, and now I am. My name is Robin Swoboda, and I am delighted to host again this year. I can't believe that this is my 5th year doing this. And it's such a privilege to be in a room full of beautiful, wonderful, happy people who are making a real difference in the lives of older adults in Cuyahoga County. When we started 5 years ago, it was the year of COVID, and we did it online, which was a scream. Anybody who's ever tried Zoom meetings is very funny, and I was not very good at it. But I never looked like a cat, like that famous meme, where the guy goes, "I'm not a cat." But every year it seems like something exciting has happened in my life, or exciting not necessarily in a good way. So you've been with me through my second cancer, through almost dying from my first chemotherapy appointment, and last year, I announced that I had survived a stroke in my spleen, which only 0.15% of people have a stroke in their spleen. So I'm happy to tell you, between the 4th annual and now the 5th annual, nothing terrible has happened to me. With the exception of I got really sick in March and April of last year. I brought home a new puppy, a German Shepherd. I have 2 little dogs, they're the alarms, but I needed an enforcer. So yes, exactly. A woman living alone, you can't take any chances. I mean, look at me, who wouldn't want, I'm surprised they went after Nancy Guthrie instead of me. I'm so sorry, that was awful. That was terrible, but I'm just saying, I could be kidnapped at any moment and I needed a big dog. When I brought that big dog home, that was awful. I can't feel my legs. When I brought that puppy home, I was sick for like 6-8 weeks. Turns out I'm allergic to dogs. Not just any dog. I'm allergic to male dogs. And apparently I'm allergic to their prostate. Look it up, Google it. It's a real thing. So when I told Axel this was his reaction. Yes. I'm like, "Axel, I'm sorry." He said, "But it's a little prostate." So I'm keeping him. But who's allergic to male dogs but Robin Swoboda? All right, this year our theme is connecting older adults socially, civically, and economically. Throughout the morning, we will explore why connection matters and how social engagement, civic participation, and economic stability all play critical roles in supporting older adults as they age. We will highlight current initiatives, share perspectives, and engage in conversations focused on strengthening services and expanding opportunities throughout the county. Before we move forward, I want to take a moment to thank our sponsors for making today possible. We are incredibly grateful to the Cuyahoga County Board of Developmental Disabilities, the Cleveland Foundation, and the Western Reserve Area Agency on Aging for their generous support. How about we give them a hand? Couldn't do it without them. We have a fabulous morning ahead, including thoughtful remarks from the director of DSAS, Natasha Petricola, I love that name, updates from members of the advisory board, and a lively panel discussion. Please follow along with the agenda, and you can scan the QR code on the centerpiece at your table. You will find the speakers' bios and copies of the slides being shared today. If Axel is in there, he will autograph them at a later date. At the close of the program, we strongly encourage you to complete your survey. Your input is invaluable and helps us continue to make this annual meeting meaningful and impactful. If you don't like me, my name is Wilma Smith, and you won't find that on the survey. The survey can be accessed through the QR code on your table again, and it will be displayed on the monitors at the end of the event. With that, let's get started and dive into this important conversation. We will open up the meeting with words from the Cuyahoga County Executive, Chris Ronayne.
Good morning. I'm Chris Ronayne, your Cuyahoga County Executive. Welcome to the Cuyahoga County Division of Senior and Adult Services annual meeting. This year's theme, connecting older adults socially, civically, and economically, is more important than ever. Connection is the foundation of strong communities, ensuring that older adults remain engaged, valued, and supported in every aspect of life. Thanks to DSAS and dedicated partners like all of you, we're helping residents live with dignity and purpose. Together, we're creating opportunities that combat isolation, foster civic involvement, and bolster financial security. Today, you'll hear valuable insights and data to guide your future work. And as you listen, think about how each of us can play a role in connecting with older adults, not just socially, but in all the ways that matter most. Thank you to Director Natasha Petricola, the DSAS team, and the advisory board for your dedication and leadership. Congratulations on another successful annual meeting. Let's continue this important work together. Enjoy the meeting.
Well, thank you very much. All right. It is my pleasure now to welcome Natasha Petricola, Director of the Division of Senior and Adult Services. Natasha is here to share highlights of the meaningful work her team is leading alongside the advisory board to better support older adults and adults with disabilities throughout our community. DSAS plays a critical role in helping people age safely, independently, and with dignity by delivering programs and services that truly strengthen well-being and connection. Natasha, we are very happy you are here and excited to hear from you, so come on up.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Ooh, this is kind of an awkward situation. So I just want to thank all of you for joining us this weekend or this Friday and coming here to listen to probably information that's not going to surprise anybody, right? The majority of us in this room are working in the aging field. The majority of us are seeing clients on a daily basis or people in our community. So we're very familiar with this population and some of the struggles and some of the things that we're seeing that we're sometimes uncertain about how we approach. The one thing, though, that I want to thank everyone in this room about is that you're all here fighting the same fight as we all are, right? I think we all are very passionate with what we do. And I've had many sidebar conversations with several of you in this room who sometimes are at a loss. And it's okay, because as long as we can recognize that we're uncertain about what we're doing, it gives us the opportunity to plan and to think of something that we should be doing. So first, before I begin, and I want to give you a little overview of where DSAS is right now and some of the data that we've been collecting as far as the year in review from 2025, I want to thank our board. So if all our board members would please stand, and I promise we won't make you do it again, just so that everybody can give you a round of applause. It takes takes a lot to be committed to our board. We've asked favors of you, you've asked favors of us, and the relationship is definitely symbiotic. So I just want to thank you for everything that you do and everything that you will continue to do when we request something. I also want to thank and give a special shout out to those people who helped plan today's event. Our annual board meeting would not have happened if it wasn't for Meridell and her guidance. Tanisha Washington, who is our communications liaison for the Division of Senior and Adult Services. And then board members Alyssa Peters, Janet Keeler, Catherine Rush, and Cheryl Braddis. Thank you all. I also know Robin mentioned this, but I also want to give another special thank you to our sponsors for the event, the Western Reserve Area Agency on Aging, the Cleveland Foundation, and the Cuyahoga County Board of Developmental Disabilities. Thank you all. And lastly, to those speakers and panelists that we'll hear from shortly, we appreciate you talking with us, having discussions with us, learning more about some of the stuff that we're asking of you today to kind of share with our audience. So I'm going to start off by some food for thought. Again, this is nothing shocking. It's not a demographic you haven't heard. This is not something that will startle you. But we know finally that in the United States of America, our population is aging rapidly. And we know now that more than half of Americans are over the age of 65. And this is going to continue to rise as we see that great generation of baby boomers, those born between 1946 and 1964 age. And if you talk to most of those people, and I have some of those people in my life, they're my parents, they will tell you what's important to them is to live life fully, right? Everybody wants to be healthy. Everybody wants to reside in their home. Everybody wants to be around those that they love. And hopefully, by the grace of God, everybody has that opportunity. But we know that not everyone will. We also know that by 2050, 65 older in this country will reach 82 million people. That's a 42% increase from 2022, making 23rd of the U.S. population. So think about that for a second. And we are not immune from the same statistic here in the region that we live. Ohio is an aging demographic, and people are growing older in our own county. And many of us are charged with the responsibility of ensuring their safety, looking out for them, and connecting them to resources. So these are our client counts, and I apologize. We have a new case management system. So I don't have all the data just yet for our information services program, which is our Aging Disability Resource Center, and I don't have all of our community social service program data about how many people we've served in some of the centers of those that you represent here today with us. But I do have some numbers that I think you'll find interesting. So we saw a very slight dip in our Connection Center numbers this past year. We have some theories what it is, but we haven't solidified those yet. We have also noticed that we've had a slight decrease in referrals from 211. And the year previously, we had about 10,000 referrals that came from 211. Many of you know that we've had some challenges with service delivery. Not so much in our adult protective services realm, but we have an options program, we have a home support division, and because of budgetary constraints, there's been some shifting about why those programs look the way they do. But as you can see, our adult protective service program for the first time has reached a record number of reports, 3,090 in 2025 alone. So when you hear APS, I think it kind of startles a lot of people because of the seriousness of the nature of the population that entails. But I look at it a different way. I look at it that maybe there's more awareness out there. The people who are seeing something that they suspect is abuse, neglect, or financial exploitation are actually making that call and looking for help for those individuals. So I'd like to see the glass half full rather than half empty in that particular situation. But I just want to encourage everyone in this room who are mandated reporters that you continue to utilize that service because it's extremely important. We also saw in our home support division a slight dip, not very much, but about 15 less patients that we're dealing with. And I think also that's attributed to the fact that we've lost a lot of family service aides. So we know that since the pandemic, that has been, and healthcare in general, has been an industry that was heavily impacted by the whole chaos of what occurred. But we also saw something else happen, a phenomena where people that were older caregivers decided that maybe it wasn't for them any longer because it put them at their risk. We've seen a population, specifically a DSAS, who were very dedicated workers who work so hard, finally be able to retire because they've reached that age. And we've also seen economies that have impacted work, right? Because if you are a home health aide, that's very trying, very tedious work, and you must have a heart for that type of work. You have to be a compassionate individual. You have to be a patient individual. You have to be a caring individual. That is not work for the light of heart. And I think what's also happened is that people have realized that they can go work maybe at a restaurant and make more money doing work that is less laborious than, do your shift and you're done for the day. So I think that's some of the residual effects that we continue to see. It doesn't mean we're stopping. It just means that that's something we need to pay very, very close attention to, all of us in this room. And then our options for independent living program, despite some setbacks with budgetary issues, we've even grown there. And we'll continue to look at innovative ways that we can add clientele to these different kinds of programs as well. So this is a look at our DSAS contracts. There's been some slight changes and fluctuations in the money in those different programs, but we have our community social service programs, and basically right now, currently, there are 32 providers, and our budget is a little over $3 million. Our options for independent living program, we have 23 providers, and again, remember, options provides home-delivered meals, personal care, homemaking, life alert. They do transportation to medical appointments. We have some durable medical equipment we can assist people in buying, and a laundry service. So we're about $5.1 million in contracts in the community that we provide these agencies to help provide this work to those clients who do not qualify for necessarily Medicaid, waiver, or SNAP programs. And then we have our guardianship services program that we work with Lutheran Metropolitan Ministries with, and we have a yearly contract of $675,000, and that's predominantly used in adult protective services for those indigent people who require a legal surrogate that the court has deemed requires a guardian, and they have nobody in their life who could step up, or at least anyone that we feel is reliable enough or safe enough to be that particular individual in that person's life. And then we continue to have our bed bug contract, and that's been a standing staple at DSAS for some years now. And the reason being this: when we first originated this whole notion about having bed bug services in private homes or rental homes, we realized that it was impacting older adults because some of them would lose their home care providers and services if there were bed bugs detected in the home. So obviously, we didn't want that to happen because it would just create one issue after another. So that was why this program was basically designed. So these are some of the things that we're looking at as an agency, and I bet our list would be very comparable if I were to ask you to think of a few things that you're concerned with as you continue to work with this population. And the first and foremost is obviously we have that growing population of older and disabled adults in our community. There's been an increased demand in services and clients' needs. So we're also seeing people that come to us that require more support, that require more guidance, that maybe don't have any family around, that maybe they've never married, that people that have come before them have now passed away. We're very concerned not only about their well-being physically, but emotionally, because we know that emotionally, it's just as impactful as somebody's well-being as it is to physically take care of yourself. Many of us have experienced flat or reduced budgets. So I don't know when the end is sight in the horizon, but it might be a bumpy few years until we see some kind of impact where we see growth or the ability to kind of pursue some other kinds of programming. We want people to age successfully in place because it is much less expensive to have somebody age in their home and in their community around people they know and programs they know and streets and stores and everything else that they're familiar with than it is to have them in a nursing home. And guess what? Not everyone meets a level of care for nursing home placement. And not everyone can afford a very expensive assisted living. Even the best planned financial kind of expertise that was put into your retirement, your dream of one day after working 30 years, this is where your golden years will be spent, doesn't mean it's coming to fruition now. And we have a huge gap in caregiving. The cost of basic needs and living, they've continued to escalate. We see people that come to us for assistance for rent, for example, that probably in 2019, 2020 were paying $500, $600 a month for rent, and that's grown to maybe double to $1,200 a month. And when you're on a fixed income, you're not going to be able to squeeze much more from that stone. And we've also seen the rise in APS reports. So, not to be unexpected, right? Because people are aging, there's more opportunity. But the one thing is we kind of see steady is 43% of our cases typically are self-neglect. But guess what the fastest rising allegation is? Can anyone guess? Financial exploitation. It makes up about 23% of our cases right now. And that's not going to stop. And this is aside from scams, right? Scams just compound everything, and oftentimes we see the people that are victims of scams become victims of other allegations because they're self-neglecting, because they can no longer afford their rent, because somebody's taking advantage of them financially. So these are like complex, intertwined issues. It's not just white or black. It's not, concrete. It is all gray. It all intertwines. So there's no way to separate, well, if we alleviate this, this won't happen. That doesn't work. You've got to approach it as a systematic kind of issue. And we have staff attrition and challenges. That whole subgroup, that 1946 to 1964, they are retiring. And we're losing a lot of institutional knowledge in all sorts of fields, whether it's in the medical field, the educational field, and the social service field. We ourselves have seen a great number of people in the last few months that are retiring. I have a deputy director who retires at the end of the month and a chief supervisor. Those are two people that we're losing with almost 30 years of service that will no longer be viable to our agency as a support. And I'm sure many of you are experiencing the same thing. I believe between October and December, we lost 3 more family service aides who retired. So it just complicates the issue more and more. So, paving the road forward, because I can't leave on a negative note, because many of you look very, very disturbed right now. And I often feel that way in my office. If you ask any one of my staff, when they come in, sometimes they're like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yes, I'm just thinking." So, one thing that we're really trying to emphasize at our agency is this whole notion of age-friendly communities, right? So if the resources kind of run barren, what we need to do is start to be creative in how we can work together. And we have many, many good partners in this room. So the expansion of our Livable Cuyahoga initiative is our current focus. And we're really honing in on housing, transportation, and social participation. Now, I know there's 8 domains of livability, but right now, those are the ones that we're trying to tackle one step at a time. And we're building programming around that. We've had a housing forum that was very successful that we hosted with Benjamin Rose. We've had transportation that we've partnered with the City of Cleveland and their Department of Aging because they are also an age-friendly community in the city. And then social participation, we've worked with the Warrensville Senior Center. We will continue to work on other projects in our senior centers and try to engage the community, east side, west side, south side, north side. No one is excluded from this. We're just making our rounds right now. We also need to start looking at alternative funding operations and opportunities because they're not coming where they traditionally came from, and that's going to involve looking at grants, knocking on doors, having conversations to see who can kind of plug the holes in our little tub, because honestly, we can't allow those gaping holes to grow any bigger. We have to make sure that we're doing something proactively to kind of work on some of these strategies, because there's many good ideas out there, but it's how do we bring them to fruition. Our partnerships, our resource sharing, our ability just to work with one another, sometimes just having a facility to host an event is so appreciated, right? If you build it, they will come. And that's what we need to start thinking. Kind of grassroots, kind of back to basics. And that's all right, because that's what got work done for generations. So why doesn't it work now? It can work. And innovation. We really need to think about what we should be doing. I know that we found a huge gap in behavioral health a few years ago. It really stemmed from the pandemic again. And basically, we were finding that we were having a difficult time getting seniors in to get geriatric assessments. So we have nurses and we have social workers, so we created a behavioral health unit. And it's been very innovative, and I'll tell you why. An older adult who has mental health issues that maybe are not treated or are treated, or somebody with an early onset or some stage of dementia in their life is treated very differently in the mental health field. And it's no diss on anyone in that particular kind of, in that arena. It's just stating that we need to take special care of our seniors because their mental health needs are going to look a lot different than somebody who's younger. There are similarities and diagnoses that are shared, but depression in older adults looks a little different, and psychosis in older adults look different. And then you start to add in the fact that somebody may have developed some cognitive concerns on top of it. They're misunderstood, and they may not be treated well. So we, as people who work daily with these groups of individuals, need to consider that. We need to meet people where they are. We don't need to judge them or stereotype them, but we need to figure out what it is that we can do to make their life more comfortable. We really should preach and walk the walk, right? If we want people to age successfully, it kind of begins with us. So that kind of concludes what at least I have to say. I hope that all of you can appreciate, and I don't mean to sound, like I said, dire in my request or that there is no hope. I just want everyone to realize that there are things that we should be talking about, discussions that need to be had, and it's okay to bring different groups in, and it's great to be innovative. So if anything today, after you hear from me, and then Robin's coming up here now to introduce our next guest, but after you hear all our speakers today, I hope it really starts getting us thinking about maybe something that stems from what was heard and how we can create something different. So thank you.
Thank you for ending on a positive note. But I did notice you kept looking at me when you referred to older seniors and mental health. Oh, goodness. All right. Well, I've had a full cup of coffee, so off we go, everybody. The Senior and Adult Services Advisory Board is comprised of 24 committed professionals who generously lend their knowledge, experience, and passion to advancing services for older adults and individuals with disabilities. Representing a wide range of disciplines and perspectives, these leaders play a vital role in guiding aging initiatives throughout Cuyahoga County and beyond. From advocating for meaningful policy changes to strengthening funding opportunities and supporting innovative programs, their work helps improve quality of life across our community. The board gathers every month to align priorities and strategy, and they host this annual meeting to keep you informed and engaged in their efforts. With that, I am pleased to invite a few members of the DSAS Advisory Board to share remarks, beginning with the immediate past board chair, Janet Keeler. Come on up here, Janet. Thank you, Rob. Thank you. I mean, only if I fast, that's right.
All right, good morning, everybody. Is my big head up there? Last year, my big face was up there. Let me start by saying I am a part of the younger group of older adults. Those in their late 50s, early 60s. And I watch the younger generation, millennials, come up and they read off their phone. And so this is my version of reading off my phone at font 18. So, hello and thank you for joining us this morning. My name is Janet Keeler, and as Robin had just said, I'm the immediate past board chair, and I'm happy to be hosting this amazing event along with our director and the rest of our advisory board. Our newly elected current board chair couldn't be with us today. Cheryl Broaddus had a previous obligation, and I'm happy to step in for her. I want to thank our sponsors once again. I know from being on the annual board meeting planning committee what a hard and big ask it is for money in this landscape, and I really do appreciate the County Board of Developmental Disabilities, where I work, the Cleveland Foundation, and the Western Reserve Area Agency on Aging for stepping up and being willing to sponsor and give monies to this wonderful event. A special thanks to Community Solutions for their ongoing partnership and their ongoing research that you'll hear a little bit more from when you hear from our keynote, Emily Campbell. In the long-standing tradition of informing the community, okay, hold on, I gotta move my screen, about issues of concern to older adults and adults with disabilities, our first board meeting every year is this 3-hour forum highlighting DSAS services and its board, as well as bringing awareness of critical issues. Past annual meeting topics have been, and if you've been with us for these meetings, you'll remember, from surviving to thriving, which we did during COVID, reducing social isolation and loneliness, and the impact of inflation on older adults. We are now in our 5th year of these large annual board meetings, and we look forward to continuing this great tradition. We are pleased to say that the impact of inflation when we did that forum on older adults resulted in direct improvements for the people that we serve. It resulted in the initiation of a county-wide property tax relief program to assist older adults with delinquent taxes and those who are facing foreclosure. Special thanks to our Cuyahoga County Treasurer, Brad Cromes, for his participation and advocacy for us. In 2025, we welcomed new board members, Renetta Williams, who represents Cuyahoga County Metropolitan Housing Authority, CMHA. The advisory board oriented 4 new board members: Victoria Bowden from Metro Health, Ben Goodwin representing the Adams Board, Robin Kaltenbach from AARP, and Alyssa Peters from the VA. As well, we're excited to be joined by our newest board member, Lisa Weitzman, who represents Benjamin Rose, and our returning board member, Mara Lane, who represents the City of Cleveland Department of Aging for a 3-year term. The advisory board also said goodbye to 2 long-term board members, Jennifer Kahns from the United Way and Beth Sipple from Benjamin Rose. Finally, along with DSAS staff, the advisory board members have been instrumental in developing and executing the annual Aging and Disability Summit that happens in September, and continue to serve on leadership roles in our age-friendly, livable Cuyahoga, which is now in our 5th year. So in closing, I'd like to invite Renetta up here to join me on stage and tell us a little bit about herself and how her work intersects with the mission and work of DSAS.
Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning. All right, so at CMHA, we do things a little differently. I'm sure everyone is aware of that. We do not have our residents or seniors traveling to us. Instead, we provide services, and we bring those services directly into the communities that we serve our seniors in. We also partner with our trusted community partners. We bring our partners into the buildings, and they provide services and wellness services to our residents. They provide health and wellness screenings. They provide educational resources, and they provide special celebrations for our residents. We also host educational workshops ourselves, and we also have, in addition to that, we have our senior management case managers that come into our buildings and provide one-on-one support to our residents. This kind of support could be anything from navigating benefits, connecting to healthcare access, providing food to our residents, utility assistance, and anything to prevent a large crisis. So they kind of meet with them on a smaller scale just to prevent anything from escalating to crisis. And that personalized support helps seniors remain stable, independent, and confident in their daily lives. One of my favorite examples of social engagement in action is our annual Senior Jamboree. Last year, we provided services, a wonderful day in the park, to over 600 seniors. 600 seniors came out for music, fun, food, to connect with their neighbors, meet new friends. It was just very contagious in the park. You can look and see residents and seniors dancing. I'm telling you, not missing a beat. They were on beat every step of the way. You couldn't just stand there without moving and shaking. So that was just so contagious to see. And it's just a joy in their faces to bring them out, to just show them that, you know what, this is a great place and it's all about connection. So it just reminds us that connection is just as important as care. Many of our seniors live alone, so isolation, as you all know, can be one of the greatest risk factors for their well-being. And that's why we're very intentional about the programming that we put together for our seniors. We create opportunities for them to build relationships, stay active, and through engagement and connection, we strengthen both the individual through all that they do, their well-being, and the overall community health. We also focus on civic engagement through our Progressive Action Council and our local advisory council. Residents step into leadership roles, share their voice, and shape decisions that affect their homes and their neighborhoods. They're not just participants, they are actual partners in this work. And some of our residents take it a step further, and they get involved with local councils, local initiatives throughout their community, and share their voice a little broader if they so desire. They have that opportunity as well. Because many seniors lived on fixed incomes, economic stability matters. Across our properties, we serve more than 4,000 seniors, connecting them with benefits, supportive services, and workforce opportunities for those who want to remain active. We have several of our seniors, they go to work every day. They want to engage, they want to work, and we provide that opportunity for them. We have other seniors that want training resources, and we provide those opportunities to our seniors as well. Our goal is to help residents age in place with dignity and security. CMHA is just a foundation. We provide the housing for our residents. We bring the programs on site for our residents so there's no transportation barriers. We connect them to health, resources, and also to leadership. And to make sure every senior's voice is heard, this is something that we're very intentional about including them in what we do every day. We want to make sure that our seniors are seen, supported, and valued. That's the heart of what we do every day at CMHA. Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce my fellow board member, Robin Koltenbach.
Thanks so much, Renetta. I told her I'd give her bonus points if she pronounced the k at the end of the name. So I appreciate that. Very well done. So as Renetta said, my name is Robin Kaltenbach. I'm the Associate State Director of Advocacy and Outreach for AARP right here in Northeast Ohio, and I'm thrilled to be here, grateful for the opportunity to speak to you today. Before I get started, quick show of hands. Who's heard of AARP? Yeah, that usually gets a few laughs. We have a little bit of a joke with the volunteer team that AARP will find you before the FBI does. So don't know how they do it, but it is true. Whenever I'm in the community alongside my volunteers, I love when people approach me at our table with their membership card in hand. Yes, I brought props today. Proudly announcing that they're members. That really is one of our differentiators with AARP. Not everyone is quite so thrilled with aging. In fact, last year in June on my sister's 50th birthday, we were out at breakfast. She opens up her email and she has an email from AARP. Welcome to the club. Needless to say, she was not very pleased. 2 days later, as she checked her mail, she got that letter in the mail. Again, not very happy. When she finally stopped clutching her pearls, I was able to convince her that aging is living. At AARP, we view aging as wisdom, experience, and opportunity. We are committed to transforming the experience of aging by strengthening communities and advocating for what matters most to the 125 million Americans 50 plus and their families: health and financial security and personal fulfillment. So how are we strengthening the well-being of older adults across the nation? Let's chat about livability AARP style. One of the best tools is the AARP Livability Index. This free online tool scores neighborhoods across 7 major categories: housing, transportation, neighborhood, environment, health, engagement, and opportunity. Or sometimes I describe it, what makes a place a great place to live, versus a place where you mutter under your breath as you make your 6th attempt at parallel parking before finally throwing in the towel and finding another parking lot. When the AARP Livability Index is paired with the AARP network of age-friendly states and communities, we have both a roadmap and a call to action. The AARP Age-Friendly Network is a framework that helps local leaders turn the idea of livable communities into real policies and real improvement. I'm especially proud to say that Cleveland, Cuyahoga County, and of September 2025, the state of Ohio are active members of the AARP Age-Friendly Network. This is a milestone that underscores a statewide commitment to building communities that support aging with dignity, inclusivity, and opportunity. At AARP, we take our leadership in the aging space seriously. Across the enterprise, we work to advance sound policies, educate lawmakers, engage community members, and elevate the voices of those we serve. This is especially true at a time when the landscape of aging is rapidly evolving and the desire to age in place has never been clearer. We also believe in giving back by offering community challenge grants to nonprofits and government agencies working to make their communities more livable. We are accepting applications for this year's community challenge grant until 5 p.m. Eastern on March 4th. So I know some of you are busy working on those right now. March 4th, 5 p.m. Eastern. Well, I could spend an hour up here highlighting the breadth of programs at AARP that address the responsibilities of connecting older adults socially, culturally, and economically. I promised to keep my remarks to 5 minutes, and I did see them warming up the hook to pull me off stage. So let me just highlight some of the few of the lesser-known examples that illustrate this work in action. First up, let's talk about the Ethel Gathering Groups. The Ethels, as we call them, are named after AARP's founder, Dr. Ethel Percy Andrus. These Facebook groups bring women together for peer connection, shared interest, culture exchange, and personal empowerment. These groups offer meaningful social engagement both online and in person at a time when loneliness is a growing public health concern. AARP supports over 200 Ethel groups in 40 states and more than 27,000 members. Some members connect primarily online, while others connect in person to gather for lunches, hikes, book clubs, card games, and so much more. AARP chapters remain one of our more powerful forces for grassroots civic and social engagement. The Cleveland Heights chapter recently spread some love through AARP's Wish of a Lifetime Cupid Crew, delivering hand-decorated Valentine's Day cards and roses to a senior living community on Valentine's Day. They also host book drives, outings, and regular meetups for members. Whether someone is looking to re-enter the workforce, change careers, or seek meaningful opportunities later in life, AARP and AARP Foundation provide guidance, tools, and employer partnerships that open doors. For instance, AARP Foundation's Senior Community Services Employment Program, or CSEP, we love acronyms at AARP, opens pathways to employment, reduces barriers, and makes sure that people have access to the resources they need. Because economic security matters at every age, especially later in life. And finally, our volunteers, the heartbeat of AARP. With more than 50,000 volunteers nationwide, AARP simply could not do this work without them. You can find volunteers greeting folks at our free movie screenings through Movies for Grown-Ups, leading workshops at libraries and community centers, supporting pickleball clinics. I learned how to play pickleball in December. It's fun, you should try it, I'm just saying.
directing traffic at shred events, advocating at the State House, and so much more. Their passion truly fuels our mission, and their dedication and expertise makes us stronger. We are always excited to welcome new people to the team, so if you or someone you know is looking to get involved, call me. I'm up here, I got business cards. My contact information is also on the screen if that's your preferred way. Anyway, together, these programs and many more demonstrate how we are living the very values we promote. AARP is committed to building communities where older adults are socially connected, civically engaged, and economically empowered. We use data to inform policies and programs that help all Americans choose how they live as they age. As we look ahead, I'm genuinely excited for the continued collaboration between AARP and DSAS. Through shared vision, strong partnership, and a commitment to livability, we can ensure that every older adult in Cuyahoga County and beyond has the opportunity to thrive. Thank you for your leadership, for your service, and for your dedication to creating communities that work for all of us as we age. And now I think I'm turning the mic over from one Robin to another Robin.
That's right. Except you're a Y.
I am a Y. I know.
Why?
I'm a Y.
Yeah, I just have one question. Why? Why not? Why not exactly? Yeah, when I was a kid, I wanted to be Robin with a Y because all the kids would make fun of me, and I'd say, it's Robin like Robin Redbreast, not Robin Hood. I didn't understand what breasts were when I was little, obviously. I was just afraid they'd think I was a boy. Anyway, thank you all so much for that. That was excellent. Janet, Ronetta, and Robin with a Y. We appreciate your perspectives this morning and for serving on the DSAS Advisory Board. And I just wanted to make a quick little note that I'm probably as old as with your parents, but anyway, that was frightening to me. But I was thinking about when my father passed away, and I wish I had time to tell that whole story because it's actually quite funny, because he was at the Veterans Hospital in Kansas, in Leavenworth, Kansas, and the doctor who called in the middle of the night stuttered, bless his heart. And you know when you're getting a call at 3 o'clock in the morning from a doctor, it's not good. And the poor man just had such a hard time, you know, getting it all out. You know, and I just wanted to say, just stop it. So anyway, so immediately the funeral home calls, and they want to put the obituary in the St. Joseph newspaper back in Missouri, and they wanted a list of all of his, you know, clubs and organizations and stuff that he joined. And my dad was a very proud man. And so my mom and I are sitting there and we're thinking, and my mom says, well, he was a member of the VFW, the American Legion, and the Steelworkers. He was a secretary of the Steelworkers Union for a while. And I said, well, we can't forget Sam's Club, AAA, and AARP. So that was in his obituary, just to pad it out a little bit. He would have loved it. All right, let's move on. We are going to widen the lens and ground ourselves in the larger conversation shaping today's gathering. Our theme, Connecting Older Adults Socially, Civically, and Economically, invites us to think beyond programs or services and instead consider the full experience of aging in our community. For many of us, this age and stage brings new opportunities to contribute through work, volunteerism, caregiving, or community involvement. It also brings shifting responsibilities, changing relationships, and unexpected transitions that require flexibility and support. This underscores the importance for a strong community which creates pathways for exploration, re-engagement, and belonging in ways that meet people where they are. Today's presentation will explore how policies and systems are influencing the landscape. I am pleased to introduce our keynote speaker, Emily Campbell, President and CEO of the Center for Community Solutions. Originally founded as one of the country's earliest federated charities, the center now operates as a nonprofit, nonpartisan think tank committed to strengthening health and human services policy. Emily collaborates with nonprofits, philanthropic partners, and public agencies, delivering research and analysis that informs decision-making across Ohio. Her work examining poverty and economic trends has been featured by, this is very impressive, The Economist, The New York Times, ESPN, MSNBC, and NPR. We are so grateful that she is joining us to explore this important topic. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Emily. Good morning and welcome back to you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here today. Thank you to Natasha Tamaradel and the team for the invitation to be here again at your annual meeting. Such an important time and such an important topic that we'll be talking about today because, 2025 was a year that I was happy to say goodbye to and move on and look forward to how we might be able to respond to some of the changes coming out of Washington and Columbus and other places. But we're really not going to talk about that too much today, and I'm not going to talk about poverty data, which is often what I have the opportunity to talk about. Instead, we're going to focus a little bit more on connections, and not just the idea of social connectedness and the sort of livability dimension that we talked about or the programs that are available, but all the various ways that older adults connect to our community. And we're going to start with meerkats. Humans are social animals. We are hardwired for connection. We thrive in packs. We specialize. We rely on each other. And if we're missing connection, it's very difficult on our health and well-being. It is hard to thrive. Study after study after study shows that. Last year when I was here, we talked a lot about the epidemic of loneliness. And loneliness is something, and the lack of connection, that seems to be most impacting people who are on the younger side of the age range and the older side of the age range, but impacting people in very different ways. This year, we're going to talk about what we can do about it and what we can all do about it. Just like meerkats, and meerkats don't live in a herd or a pride or in another, they live in a mob. It is a mob of meerkats. And the meerkats rely on each other. And so I wanted to do something a little bit different today and show you a picture of part of my mob. And there we are. Dolly Parton is not actually part of my mob, although I would welcome her. It's a great story about how this picture came to be, but that's for another time. So you see here a picture from a few years ago of me, Dolly Parton, and my mom. And I want to talk a little bit about my mom. So my mom is not the oldest person in this picture, but I won't tell you how old she is. And this story has a happy ending. Let me just tell you that from the get-go. So my parents set up their retirement in a way that they wanted to, in a way that they can really thrive. After retirement, they moved to a state in the South so that my dad can play golf year-round. This was his top priority. They moved to a place where they are within easy driving distance of an international airport because they really wanted to travel. They saved a lot. We did not, I'm a little bitter about how much they saved for their retirement over my early years, but that's another story for another day. But we're very careful with their finances to ensure that they would have the assets and the resources in order to be able to retire well and to live their golden years the way they wanted to. They bought their dream home. When my dad decided he didn't want to do so much lawn work, they sold their dream home to buy something smaller so he can still putter but not have all the responsibilities that were coming with a larger yard. They have each other, they have their health, they had some pretty substantial caregiving responsibilities, but that chapter of their lives is largely closed as the older generation has moved on. But here's the thing, on paper, all sounds amazing. But when I would talk to my mom, she always sounded a little off or a little bit sad. And one day, she finally told me that she was lonely. I was like, Mom, how can you be lonely? She is the #1 joiner. She will join everything. And she had tried everything, or many things in her community. She is the one who goes to the card groups, who forms the book club, who does all the things. And what she said is, yeah, but I haven't really meshed with people. I haven't connected. I find someone who, seems like I really hit it off with them, but they have things going on in their lives that prevents them from being able to do what I want to do with them. Things like caregiving. She is with a lot of people whose partners have serious illness or are in the early stages of dementia or are dealing with things, or these are people who are caring for their aging loved ones who are up there. As we live longer, the sort of sandwich generation keeps moving. Older and older and really broadening as well, those who are caring for both younger and older people in their lives. She had a dinner club that she put together where they were going out to dinner periodically, but she stopped it last winter because she realized she was the chauffeur because she was the only one comfortable driving at night. So she had to pick up everyone and take them, and it just wasn't fun. The point being, she was lonely. The last time I talked to her, though, she was effervescent. And the reason was because she was just about to start her new, very important job because she has signed up to be a poll worker in her state for early voting full-time. She will be a full-time poll worker for the next several months. And what this reminded me of is that sometimes it's hard to find your place. It's hard to find where those connections are. But being a poll worker ticks all the boxes for her. She loves feeling like she's doing something important to her community. She likes the extra money, although that's like low on the list for her, much more important for, I know, lots of other people. She really likes the shared sense of purpose and the camaraderie that comes from being a poll worker. And it's something that she can do and dedicate herself to, and she fully dedicated herself. She turned down coming to stay with the grandkids in order to do her very important poll worker job. She is responsible. But she really likes how it's time limited. She knows when it's coming, she does it for a couple of months, and then she does something different, kind of goes back to it. So it's not this long-term commitment. And so my mom sort of finally found her place. It comes around every couple of years. And this is a story about not those big systemic changes that we talk about, but the little things, and ensuring that there are enough different kinds of opportunities that each individual can find the place where they can thrive and they can connect. And so my mom is one of 1 million poll workers that helped with the last presidential election. And this chart is from Pew Research Center. As you can see there, the majority of US poll workers are over the age of 60. This includes over a quarter of all poll workers that are ages 70 or above, including my mom, but don't tell her I said that. And so this is a very important underpinning of our democracy. Here in Ohio, they're recruiting for poll workers right now. The average poll worker in Ohio earns around $100 to $150. This is if you mostly work on election day. Those that do early voting, of course, earn more. Need to be able to work on election day all day long. And in Ohio, poll workers must be registered to vote in the county you plan to work in, not convicted of a felony, have transportation to and from the polls, which is sometimes a barrier, of course, not be running as a candidate in the election, and attend a training session for which people are paid. And so we know that older adults, really, in their role as poll workers, are some of the underpinning of democracy, our democracy. In addition, we know older adults turn out and have traditionally turned out. In Cuyahoga County, people in their 70s had the highest voter turnout rate, not number. This is a question that I got up from Eagle Eyes looking earlier at the slides. And so here you can see every single birth year. And these are the people who voted, who are still registered to vote today and who voted in the last presidential election. It shows Cuyahoga County alone. And the lines, the longer lines are decades. So we go 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and then 80s up to 100. The oldest person who voted in the last election was 109 years old. There are 136 people over the age of 100 that voted in the last election, just in Cuyahoga County. So remaining engaged as voters. More than 232,000 Cuyahoga County older adults voted in the 2024 presidential election. People in their 60s made up 1 out of every 5 voters. And the highest voter turnout rate, as you can see there on the bottom, is 74%. So nearly 3/4 of people in their 70s in our community voted, according to the data. And I calculated this myself, so you might see different numbers in different places. Very high rates of voter registration in older adults and very high rates of actually voting. So still an important way that we stay connected to the community and are involved in civic engagement. Data from the Independent Sector's 2025 Value of the Volunteer Time Report found that the value of a volunteer hour in Ohio was $32.42. $32.42 in 2024, a little bit lower than the national average, but an increase of 4% from just 1 year prior. And when the new data comes out, it'll probably be even higher. So incredible value to the community through volunteering. When the Livable Cuyahoga Needs Assessment, which the Center for Community Solutions was glad to collaborate with the Division of Senior and Adult Services and many other community partners on that research and that report, we identified attributes of a livable community involved with social participation that include accessible events and activities, that prioritizes affordability, which is very important in our community, that are well promoted activities and events, that address isolation, so bringing people together, and that fosters community integration. The Livable Cuyahoga survey found that 40% of residents volunteered at least once in the last year. And almost 30% of those people were volunteering at least monthly. More than half were volunteering weekly or monthly. So an important underpinning, especially as we talk about funding for services and things being provided in our community, there's a lot of conversation about, can we lean on more volunteers? But I want to put a note of caution, because volunteering is also a privilege. Not everyone can afford to use their time volunteering. This is part of the reason that a few years ago, the Center for Community Solutions shifted our annual award for volunteers from being the Most Treasured Volunteer Award to being the High Five Award that recognizes not only those who volunteer their time for health and social services, but also those that are paid to do it, but making a contribution far outside what their hourly wage might indicate. So those applications will be open soon, and please, if you have a volunteer or a person in your life working in health and social services that you'd like to nominate, there is a very small cash prize for those volunteers as well. We give them out in November. The Livable Cuyahoga assessment also found that the things that people in our community, that older adults in our community want, aren't really programs. What they're looking for are connections. The ways that they want to stay socially engaged are things like being with friends, visiting family, going out to dinner, attending community events. Those were the top things. And so to be most effective, those connections to community tend to be small, diffuse, tailored, and unique. All the kinds of things that the director was talking about earlier, this sort of being creative, and we're not talking about creating systems, we're talking about creating an ecosystem. One of the complaints that my mom had, why she couldn't do the things that she wanted to do with some of the new friends she were making, is that many of the people were caring for their grandchildren on a regular basis, that they were a big part of childcare, and so they were busy at the time that she wanted to go out and do things. And this is a growing trend across the country. 76% of Americans ages 65 or older have grandchildren or have at least one grandchildren. This is nationwide data. So of those who have grandchildren under the age of 18, almost half provided care for them at least once every few months. 20%, 1 in 5, were providing childcare or babysitting or spending time with their grandchildren, not socially, but to help out with caregiving, at least once a week. And 8% were providing the childcare daily or near daily. When we think about older adults, and in years past, we've talked a lot about caregiving for older adults, but older adults are increasingly providing caregiving for younger generations. And it's an increasing trend. This nationwide information from the National Poll on Healthy Aging also found that older adults who identified as Hispanic were more likely to say they take care of a grandchildren under 18 every day or nearly so, and it's more than twice as likely for people who are Hispanic than the entire population. And 9% of non-Hispanic Black older adults who have grandchildren under 18 were providing care every day. So a really important underpinning of our whole community and ensuring that whole families thrive. What the survey said is that with the high cost and limited availability of childcare in the U.S., grandparents who provided regular care for their grandchildren are giving their families a valuable resource. And any of us that have relied on grandparents to help out in this way certainly would agree. The same study also found that grandparents seeing their grandchildren is more often correlated with hardly ever feeling isolated. And there was a study from Europe that was released earlier this year or late last year that found very similar things and was published in journals. In addition, older adults are providing financial support for their grandchildren. Nearly 1/3 of older adults who have grandchildren under age 18 said that they've helped provide financial support to some way in the past year. This includes about 1/4 that help with day-to-day expenses like clothes, meals, or groceries, 10% who paid for educational expenses, and 10% who provided support for big expenses like summer camp, sports, and daycare. So time and treasure being devoted, and thank you to all of you who are devoting time and treasure to the next generation. When we think about families, one of those transitions that often happens in older adulthood, or happens for many in our community, is losing a partner or a change in partnership or in marital status. And this contributes to the share of older adults who live alone. Here you see data from the U.S. Census Bureau looking at Cuyahoga County and marital status by age. The next couple charts you'll see, the light gray are younger people. Then the lighter blue are those ages 60 plus, including the darker blue, which are ages 65 plus, because this is the way the data is broken out. Over 90% of older adults in our community are either the householder or the spouse of the householder in households across the community. And so we see a lot of these partnerships in the community. And about an additional 1% are living with an unmarried partner. This means that fewer than 10% of older adults in Cuyahoga County are living with other relatives such as children or grandchildren. About half of older adults are living alone, and 9% are female householders with no spouse present. So that means they have another person in their household, but they don't have a spouse present. What I want you to notice are the differences between some of the lines. And you can see that 1/5 of older adults over age 65 in our community, 21%, have been widowed, and so have experienced that loss. And we know that there are social, economic, and financial and emotional pieces that go along with losing a spouse. Many times, the surviving spouse has served as primary caregiver for a very long time for their loved one, or organizing many of those things. And so this is a transition that often happens to people in our community, and what people do afterwards and the sort of connections that they're able to build and grow are very important for people to continue to thrive. We also know that something that happens as people approach and continue through their golden years is retirement, something that many people look forward to. Others have put off over the years. But you see very clearly the labor force participation rate drops off substantially in Cuyahoga County as we move up in age. Again, the light blue is ages 60 to 64, and then the darker we have labor force participation of 31% for those ages 65 to 74, and just 8% for 75 years and older. Labor force participation measures the people who are either working or looking for work. So everyone else has taken themselves out of the labor force or taken themselves out of working for whatever reason. If we look at household income sources by age in Cuyahoga County, we see this. 75% of younger households have earnings, income that they are earning. That drops to 48% for those 60 and over, and 39% for those ages 65 and older. What we also see is the amount of earnings drop off precipitously for households. The average or the mean household income through earnings for younger households is $98,000 across Cuyahoga County. This is the average, so everybody gets dumped in. You divide it by the number of households, and there we have it. For those over age 65, it's $69,000. So part-time work, lower incomes, only one member of the family working, all kinds of things contribute to that. The Bureau of Labor Statistics has data on why people have taken themselves out of the labor force. The most common for older adults, of course, is that they've retired or health reasons. But if they had looked for work and were not successful in finding it over the last year, the most common reason was other, which includes childcare and transportation, followed by they became discouraged in looking for work, sometimes due to discrimination that they feel. Others were ill or disabled that prevented them from finding work right now, but they wanted to in the future. And many had family responsibilities that kept them from finding a job. Work is about to become even more important in our community and across the country because, as I'm sure you have heard, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act introduces new work requirements in Medicaid so that people have to be engaged in work or another approved activity or have an exemption in order to keep their Medicaid. It also broadens those people who are required to work in the SNAP program. Here in Cuyahoga County, the very rough estimate is that there are about 2,000 people between the ages of 60 and 64 who are on SNAP and will suddenly be work required. That is happening now. People have already begun to get their notices in the mail that they may be subject to a work requirement. It's expected in SNAP to turn on in March, and people have 3 months. You get 3 months before you lose your SNAP if you don't meet the work requirement or qualify for another exemption. The Medicaid change, which will impact many times that number of older adults because we have not had a work requirement in Medicaid previously, those go into effect no later than January 1st. So it's coming. Lots of planning happening in the community. And here you see a graphic that we put together at Community Solutions for will I meet the new work requirement? Or will I be subject to it? So these work requirements in Medicaid are for people between the ages of 19 and 64 that are part of Medicaid expansion, who are not engaged in employment or another approved work activity like community engagement or volunteering, and who don't have an exemption. Here's what's really important in this and what we can do right now about some of the work requirements. The rules are currently being written about what constitutes an exemption. They are also currently being written about what constitutes community engagement. And so some of the conversations that we're having at Community Solutions or with faith-based groups or with many in this room to say, all right, is there some sort of easy form we can all use across the community that we can sign to indicate that someone was engaged in community in a way that supported communities, through volunteering, that the Cuyahoga Department of Job and Family Services or Division of Job and Family Services can see, can accept, they know what they're looking at, it's all good, and confirm. And Cuyahoga County has been an amazing partner in thinking creatively about how our community can respond to these things in a way that helps people keep the benefits that they are eligible for, otherwise eligible for, and ensure that paperwork doesn't prevent people from getting their health care or getting the food assistance that they need. So much more to come. The other piece of this is which category of eligibility people are in Medicaid. And so starting to talk to healthcare institutions and others about moving people who could qualify through Medicaid through one of the other ways, most notably the age blind and disabled or the ABD, to have the medical paperwork done to show that they can qualify through that method of qualification, or to get the paperwork done to show that they are what's called medically frail, so that they are unable to work because of a physical or behavioral health need. In the legislation, this doesn't necessarily mean a diagnosis, but it does require some interaction with a health provider, and we're still figuring out what that all means. The state of Ohio has estimated that about 70% of people who are currently covered by Medicaid expansion and will be subject to a work requirement will meet that work requirement or exemption, a lot of them through information already at the state, but a lot of them because we know how many people have diagnoses and might be able to be considered medically frail, but they're gonna have to prove it. And so this is a piece of legislation that is happening to our community. We're not deciding to do it, but we can decide how we respond. And really the response looks like trying to support others throughout our community. So here's the point. This is a time when there are a lot of things changing. the supports and services and systems that have been built that are funded through public dollars to support older adults as they age are really being threatened by decisions, again, that are being made outside of our community. Funding is tight, and funding is tight everywhere. The pie is shrinking, and this isn't about slicing the pie differently. It's about figuring out maybe some other desserts that we can add to that pie. So what are some of the other desserts? It's exactly what the other speakers have talked about. It's being creative. It's thinking small. It's figuring out what each of us can do to try and make those connections. And community-wide, a community that provides connections to older adults looks like a place that meet all of those levels of what social connectedness meant and what is identified in the Livable Cuyahoga report. It's things like making sure that there are things that are affordable, that there's transportation available that help people overcome their barriers to doing it, that there's a wide variety, because this isn't a one-size-fits-all solution, but recognizing that we all need our meerkat mob, and we all need connection no matter what age we may be at. And for older adults, this often means changing the things that they have relied on to be their connection over time. So with that, I'm happy to take questions for a few minutes. And thanks so much for having me here today. And, you know, keep my mom in your thoughts. And as she deals with, I'm going to have great stories from her work in the polls for the next couple months. Yes, I see a hand in the very back. Yeah. There's a microphone, I think.
Cleveland, working with the elderly there who come to the library. But my question is, can we get a copy of your slide presentation, please?
Are they online, right? Yeah, the QR code.
All right, thank you.
Hi, my name is Connie D. I got one question. You mentioned something about how these benefits is going to affect the seniors.
Yeah.
So for the seniors who don't necessarily qualify for a SNAP, but at a certain level of income, how is they handling these benefits? Are these benefits still going to be available, or what should these seniors be looking toward to do?
So the eligibility for SNAP is not changing. Those income levels is not changing. What is changing is a work requirement for, adding a work requirement for people between ages 55 and 65, and there's some confusion about that because it says two different things in two different bills. So the resources that are already available in our community will continue to be available. There's more paperwork that people will have to do in order to meet that. You know, there's a lot of other systemic things that are happening and big concern, which we're not going to get into today, but we can a little bit since you asked the question, about the continued funding of the SNAP program. There are requirements for cost sharing for states, concern that that cost sharing will be passed down to counties. The state right now is looking at a hole in their budget, so they're going to have to go back and work on things. And so the resources that are available to our community and those in our community for SNAP and other benefits may shrink. Now, when that happens, it puts pressure on the whole rest of the systems, right? On the food banks and on all the other, did I get there? It puts pressure on everything else. And so the need for our community to figure out how to continue to meet people's basic needs is a serious thing that we're going to have to figure out.
Okay, you said these work requirements
Yep.
are for ages 18 through 65.
Correct.
Do that exempt those who are disabled?
It does if you meet the disability requirements. Yes. So it is able-bodied adults without dependents. ABOD is the technical term.
Well, for those who are technically disability or disabled or
Yeah.
not able to perform those work requirements, what are they asking for? What are they asking to be presented to, like the agency, for proof?
Yeah.
Also, one other question. Those who are over 65,
Yeah.
are they still required to do anything for these benefits?
Okay, I'm going to answer your second one first because it's the easiest, and the answer is no. This is the working age adult group up to age 65. The second question about what do people need to provide, it's another short answer. We don't know yet. It's the shortest answer. That's what's being worked on right now. The regulations are being written by the federal government and by the state government that will then be passed down here to our county and that the county will have to put into place. And so there is quite a bit of advocacy to make sure that those rules are written in a way that people can meet those requirements and meet them hopefully easier, and a lot of collaboration to try and work out what can be provided that Cuyahoga County will be able to accept. Because, you know, they have to be in compliance with these things. So much more to come over the next couple of months. The one that we're paying closest attention to right now is the definition of medically frail. So these are the people who are not technically disabled, not on disability, you know, may not have a diagnosis, but have a health or behavioral health concern or issue that would prevent them from being able to consistently meet the work requirement. The other thing we're working on, frankly, is seeing if we can beef up our workforce development system. We know how difficult it is for our workforce development system to serve people who are in that key 55 to 64 age, and you know, a lot of those resources to see if we can connect people to employment and earnings and meaningful employment, because there's a lot of good that happens in that too, and it's the easiest way to meet a work requirement is to be working. Thanks for those questions. Yeah.
Hello, my name's Dania Roddy. I was thinking about like CMSD schools or even any districts who need volunteers in the classrooms, and I was thinking if seniors could volunteer and maybe use those hours as their work requirement, it kind of helps different systems, and I was just wondering, like, how do we advocate for that?
Yeah, it's a total win-win,
Yeah.
right? It's a win-win, win-win-win.
Libraries, they can volunteer in libraries, help with after-school programs. I mean, all types of things. Hospitals, they can be cuddlers in the NICUs, or, I mean, it's so many opportunities that maybe if they
right.
made that, let that be a work requirement.
That's right.
That, you know, these other systems, it takes pressure off them when they're low-staffed and need those things done. And it all kind of, you know, it sounds amazing if possible.
Yes, doesn't it? Right, you're turning a threat into an opportunity, right? Isn't this an opportunity for us to think a little bit differently and be creative about what does community engagement mean? I mean, I don't know that this is going to fly, but one of the things that I was talking to a clergy member and faith-based about is like maybe participating in the choir. That's community engagement, and that's for benefit for our community. Are there ways that we can think creatively beyond what we've thought of as the traditional volunteering, you know, sort of regular things? Are there other things? Are being engaged in your grandchild's PTA? Is that something that is contributing to our community in a way that we will value and recognize those contributions are equal to paid employment? I don't know. A lot of it depends on what the federal and state governments allow. You know, we don't get to decide all of that, but the piece that I know that we will be able to do is have a regular way to prove it, because you got to prove it. It's not enough that you say it. You have to be able to prove it in a way that those county workers, again, are able to accept, to check the box. And so it's about tracking and forms and keeping it simple, and what does that look like? I mean, anybody that's had a high schooler, you know they got to get their form signed, right? Something like that. Or when you go and donate, you often get the thing handed to you, right? Here you go. Something like that for volunteering that we spread across the community in a consistent way, and probably not just our community, but we're also talking with some of the other, with Cleveland, or with Cincinnati and with Columbus, some of the bigger counties too. Like maybe across the state, we can have something that people get comfortable with. Just here you go, here's your form. Thank you for your service, use it however you see fit.
Even like a bank of people who need volunteers.
Yeah, wouldn't that be cool? Let's do it. Look at these innovative ideas. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Wanda Davis, and Ashbury Senior Computer Community Center. And my question is have you guys started a working group to continue this conversation and move it forward to come up with the best practices for assisting these individuals? Because one of the things we know is they're going to have to do sign up every 6 months.
Yep.
And so that workload is going to become very cumbersome for the organizations that exist now. So is there a working group, and how can we become a part of it?
Yes, so there are a bunch of working groups. There's a bunch of people that are working on it. One that I want to point to is Cuyahoga County's Hunger Rescue Team, and they have another one that is a Medicaid assistance or medical assistance team that is pulling people together, sort of starting and will continue to expand. One of the things that Cuyahoga County has done in this that I think is really smart is recognize that it's the same people. It's the same people often who are relying on Medicaid and relying on SNAP, and so they've intentionally created connections in the subcommittees of those groups to look at both health coverage and hunger assistance. And those committees include public policy and education and outreach, and a third one that I can't remember. But that education and outreach piece of it is one that I expect will ramp up pretty quickly, and it's going to take us working a little bit differently together than we have in the past, and being creative and bringing whatever resources. And I don't mean dollar resources, I mean those help, but bringing whatever ideas can come to pass. And so, one of the things that I'm seeing in the face of some of these challenges coming to our community is a lot of innovation and collaboration and willingness to say, all right, let's solve this problem. I bet we can solve this. And I think we can. It's going to be painful. There will be people that lose their benefits. But the more people that we can help continue to receive that support, the stronger our whole community will be. Thanks. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today. And I think I'm going back to Robin.
You're just fabulous, Emily. Thank you so much. Real quick note, I made a note that job that your mom has as the poll worker, that may not be the reason she didn't come to stay with the grandkids. Just kidding. Maybe not. My grandkids come over every Thursday night. Come over every Thursday night for dinner. I'm just saying. For a while, people would say, "Oh, your granddaughter, does she live close?" And I'd be like, and they're like, "Oh, is she in heaven?" And I'm like, "No, she lives upstairs." But anyway, could be sending her to heaven. Just kidding. All right, but seriously though, thank you for the information, the encouragement, and the ideas. And we're all presented with challenges. It's just how we're going to face them with encouragement and determination and doing the best for everybody that we can. All right, well, with that in mind, it is my pleasure to welcome our moderator and distinguished panel of experts who will lead us deeper into this conversation and offer their perspectives on advancing this work in our communities. The discussion will be led by Janet Keeler, Director of Community Development at the Cuyahoga County Board of Developmental Disabilities. Joining her are three outstanding panelists: Margaret Armstead, a community organizer and activities coordinator at the West Side Community House; Jared Daly, regional coordinator of workforce development, Cuyahoga County Board of Developmental Disabilities; and Paul Sobel, founder and executive director Village in the Heights. So please welcome Janet, Margaret, Jared, and Paul. Come on up here.
Sure, of course. Welcome, welcome. So I'd first like to say that we are all in this room very fortunate to have these three panelists with us today. They do important and valued work in intersecting spaces, and I hope you'll leave today more enriched and more informed about the critical issues and solutions. So first, to help our audience better understand your expertise in the area of connecting people socially, civically, and economically, can you briefly tell us about your organization and your role there? Margaret?
Sure. My name is Margaret Armstead. I am currently the activities coordinator at the Westside Community House. Socially, how we connect our seniors? Well, we provide activities for them. For a place for them, have a place for them to come to prevent social isolation. But let me just go back a moment. So yesterday I had can you all hear me? Mm-hmm. Is this working? Okay. So a current update. So yesterday I let them know, and I said, well, I'm going tomorrow, and I'm going to be speaking on the behalf of the Westside Community House. And one of the, well, quite a few, but one of the participants said, okay, and I asked the question, oh, what do you want me to say? And there was one say, ask them for money. A lot of money, we need a lot of money. So that would be the economically part of it. Socially, one said, Anthony, he said he enjoyed being with people his age. That was really pretty good. And someone said, well, they understand me. We like being around each other because we are understanding each other. And also economically, someone said, well, I don't have to worry about making me lunch. I don't have to cook at lunchtime, so we provide food, meals every day. Okay, so every day, on a daily basis, we have 30 to 50 people that come in the congregant, come to have lunch with us. And the 50 point is depending on what holiday it is, because we always celebrating something, Valentine's Day, birthdays, Christmas, so we have a large crowd during that time. We have a homebound program where we serve about 100 and up to 140 meals daily. So there's always someone that's going out to take meals to them daily, so that help economically as well.
Thank you so much, Margaret. Jared, can you tell us a little bit about your organization and your role there?
Yeah, absolutely. So Jared Daly, I work for Cuyahoga County Board of Developmental Disabilities, the Regional Coordinator of Workforce Development. About 13 years ago when I was hired in, we did a lot of work one-on-one. So we helped individuals find jobs. And I think in the moment, like where everyone is today, and some of the comments before of how do you do that on a larger scale? How do you make that easy for the community and easy for a population? So instead of working on finding one person a volunteer opportunity, it's how do we cultivate volunteer opportunities for everyone we're trying to serve and make that open to everyone we're serving, because it works better for both the community and the people in the population that you're serving. So we started a nonprofit called the Employment Collaborative. At the moment, it was a smaller group of, hey, when I find an opportunity, if it doesn't work for the individual or individuals I'm serving, how can I let everyone know about it? Because we found a business that wants to hire a person with a disability. I don't have the right fit. Let's not let that opportunity die, right? Like in a similar way, if you've got volunteer opportunities or businesses that want to hire older adults, how do you make sure that company is made aware to all of your colleagues and partners? So now in my role, I facilitate the Employment Collaborative. It has 90 plus partners, school districts, nonprofits, veterans groups. It's any organization that is serving someone with a barrier, which could be older adults defined by WIOA, anybody over 55. And so when we can go out and cultivate an opportunity with a business that goes, I want to hire people from that untapped talent pool, people with disabilities, older adults, veterans, immigrants, I'd love to do it. How can I get started? We then can tap into our pipeline of all these 90 partners and go, we have this employer in this city that's looking for a waitress, that's looking for a community center desk worker, a manufacturer, and now we can then pull candidates from all those different organizations. So what some of the comments from the keynote were are spot on. How do we advocate to the community about the value older adults can bring, but then how do we create that quick pipeline and make those connections? So that's kind of what the disability community has tried to do, is cultivate those opportunities, create the network that we can share those opportunities, and then bridge that gap too. So that's a lot of the work that I do, is both advocating for people with disabilities and barriers on why they're a good fit to employers, getting employers invested and go, okay, that sounds good. How do I get started? And then connecting them to the social service system, because that's complicated. It's a lot of partners, so we try to streamline and make that easy for them. We've realized there's a lot of businesses in the area that are super open to considering other types of candidates, disabilities, older adults, veterans. It's just complicated, and they don't know where to go, and they get a little bit nervous. So how can we all in a room go, let's make this easy on them, let's work together, let's give them that one person to talk to, but access to all older adults in the area. And that's kind of what we've done in the disability community. That's my job on a day-to-day basis, and we've had a lot of success through that strategy.
Okay. Paul?
Thank you, Janet. Good morning. I'm Paul Sobel. I'm the founder and executive director of Village in the Heights. We're based in South Euclid. We are a grassroots, community-based, nonprofit membership organization. All those adjectives are pretty important because they specify specific areas that we think are important to operate under. What we do is we exist to help older adults remain in their homes as long as they possibly can. Many people have been in their homes for 20 years, 30, 40 or more. And quite honestly, why do they want to leave? Maybe because they have family that's telling them they shouldn't be there. They can't handle it anymore. They should find an independent living or assisted living to go to. But that is not for everyone. Community centers, senior centers are wonderful organizations. Again, not for everyone. As a fully volunteer-driven organization, we provide services at no cost to our members that allow them to live more easily in their home front, whether they have family support or not. We offer services at no cost to our members, such as rides to medical appointments, grocery stores, and other necessary destinations. Volunteers also offer light-duty repairs in member homes. We like to say we have a one power tool rule. If you require more than one power tool for us to repair something there, we're going to recommend a contractor because you really don't want us doing that. Our well-checked volunteers regularly visit and or call those people who are under the weather or just don't get out that much. The end goal, basically, for all we do is healthy aging. As our tagline says, living longer at home, living better longer at home. Additionally, our program committee provides a monthly calendar of activities. These can be purely social, dine-arounds for lunch, monthly happy hours, or they can be educational events that stimulate people's minds, like helping members decide on which Medicare options to choose yearly during their renewal period. A few items on our agenda for the next month alone are a concert recital at CIM, a behind-the-scenes trip to the Cleveland Museum of Art with one of our board members who is also a docent there, Jigsaw Puzzle Day, and a trip to the Maltz Museum for an exhibit they have now to examine the biases that each of us may have. We have also recently begun a monthly low-impact exercise class with a professional trainer. And the reception has been so great that we anticipate offering classes every week beginning in April. Please note, we do not try and reinvent the wheel. There are so many good agencies out there. If one of our members approaches us with a need that we don't currently fulfill or don't anticipate fulfilling in the near future, we try to refer them to a good local organization that can. And just by information, our service footprint is an East Side footprint. We cover older adults that live in Cleveland Heights, Shaker Heights, University Heights, Beechwood, South Euclid, Lyndhurst, and Mayfield.
Thank you. And Paul, don't tell my husband about that one power tool rule. I'm dead in the water if you tell them about that. I'm going to mix up a little bit of the questions just to make sure that we get all of your information out to our audience. I will say to Margaret and Paul, what are the biggest barriers that prevent older adults from staying socially connected?
Okay, so I would think that there are mental health problems. You know, some people have mental health, mobility, that people can't get around, transportation, memory loss, maybe some medications that they take that keep them drowsy and tired and they just can't get out. Language barriers, you know, things.
Thank you. Paul?
Okay. Our impact on the people we serve socially is significant. We have numerous members who actually tell us we are their link to a social life. The village keeps members engaged in their communities. We sponsor rides to the polls. We keep people aware of changes in programs for older adults in their own communities. We regularly sponsor wellness seminars and offer to arrange tax services for our members needing assistance with these. Loneliness is an epidemic in this country, and we never say it enough. And we have to simply reach out and do everything we can to people who say they're lonely, or even if they don't say they're lonely, they sure look it and sound it, and it quacks like a duck, so it must be a duck. We want to help.
Yes, yeah. Behaviors are a good form of communication, right? I saw Paul nod when Emily was talking about volunteerism and staying connected in the community. So to Paul and Margaret, what role can local communities and faith-based organizations and volunteer groups play in supporting community connectedness?
Repeat that question, please.
Yes, of course. What role can communities and faith-based organizations and volunteer groups as well play in supporting community connectedness?
I think many of our seniors that are able and mobile enough, the faith-based places can, they do maybe weekly meals, and people can go out and volunteer and serve meals. They can, particularly maybe holiday meals as well, where lots of people can come in from different areas. I'm thinking also, there should be a need, and there is a need for ramps. So some of our seniors that was in the construction building business can provide ramps at some of these places and facilities that people can you know, be mobile enough to come out and use wheelchairs. So let's see what else I have here. Also, well, at the Westside Community House right now, what we are doing is we are establishing a strategic plan where we have names of different foundations and organizations, and we want to reach out to them and just to be able to collaborate with us. Not necessarily always, well, we do need the money, but just to have connections, to someone to come out and speak on fraud, someone to just come out and talk about medications and how not to overdose on their medication. So just a broad spectrum of ways of connectedness, getting people to getting our seniors just to learn more, do more, be more of who they are.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Community is everything to Village in the Heights. We work to stay in touch with each municipality we operate in. When we find that they have programs that can benefit our members who are their residents, such as lockbox installation by the fire departments or police departments, installation of grab bars, in-home safety assessments. We try and connect the resident to the community any chance we have. We also work with local faith organizations. They can be very cooperative in that they allow us to access their congregants and the various constituent groups within them. We even have one synagogue on the east side that has an endowment to sponsor their members. 6 of our members are members of their congregation. Would that other churches and synagogues and mosques around the city, certainly in our area, offer that as well. We bring it up, and it doesn't go very far, and we'd sure like to make it work a whole lot better.
Understood, understood. And Margaret, you had a great point about accessibility, because if you can't access the facility, you can't access the services and the programming and the great stuff they have to offer. So I'll just say right here, for Jared and I both work at the County Board of Developmental Disabilities, and every year we have grants, which we just finished reviewing all of the RFPs this week, and we give roughly $80,000 to any community organization who's looking to make their facility more accessible and physically accessible to people with developmental disabilities or any part of the population, right? If your building is accessible to people with disabilities, it's accessible to moms with strollers, it's accessible to anybody who has mobility issues, people in wheelchairs, including people that are older adults. So again, that was a great point, Margaret.
Thank you.
Shifting a little bit to employment, Jared and Paul, if you have some information to share, what are the unique barriers older adults and people with disabilities face related to employment?
Okay, I really will decline to answer the question in as much as we don't work with anyone that isn't retired.
Got it. There you go.
Well, I can do that then. That's why I think that's why I'm here, I guess. The biggest barrier in my mind for any population is always really like attitudes and just biases and all of those things. Because when you look at some of the data and the economic reasons to hire people, older adults, people with disabilities, the data is there. And I think what really happens is when we go out to talk to businesses, anybody in this room like trying to make a ton of money? I'm imagining anybody trying to be a millionaire here? No. It's like the reverse of the AARP question, like no hands going up, right? So we are a lot of heart people. We think a lot with our hearts. And so when we go out to talk to employers or volunteer opportunities, we probably have that lens of like, I've got an older adult that really wants to do this, or like older adults really need places to connect. And that's typically what we're selling to the business community. But if this was an entrepreneur group, all of their hands want to go up about being millionaires, right? So we don't really target the head or the wallet reasons. So from the disability lens, when we approached from that attitude of like, it's charity, it'd be really nice to hire someone with autism and Downs, that was falling flat on business managers' minds and their ears, because that's not what they're looking for. So you have to attack kind of those attitudes and those biases of, you're going to be walking in to try to make some connections. And if you're pitching from that lens of, you know, connecting older adults to jobs and volunteer opportunities, which is really good for them, that business manager goes, that's nice, thank you. Like, I'll take your card, right? As opposed to, did you know older adults are happier in their work? They stay in jobs longer than younger adults. They are less likely to cause workplace drama. Like any of those attitudes that you can kind of find, right? Like there are the research of why older adults are more valued employees, and that is an economic number, right? Like when I go talk to a business, I know we have the research, like their top 3 concerns are people with disabilities are gonna get hurt on the job, they're not gonna stay very long, and they can't produce. So I can just go in there and go, hey, people with disabilities are really safe, they get in less workplace accidents, they stay in jobs longer, and they're as productive, if not more productive. Do you want a safe, reliable, productive worker, right? It's not like, those are money things, right? So those are the type of barriers that you're really trying to address, the attitudes in the community, and trying to flip that bias, because you're probably, you may know it, but the people you're trying to engage with don't. So when you're talking about connecting people to economic opportunities, the mind shift that you have to change the most is the people not in this room, not in this field, and not thinking like you. So what is the message that's going to get them to open their doors to employ the people you're working with, it's the economic reason, right? It's, I can get you someone that's gonna stay here 3 times longer than if you hire somebody off the street. I can come in here and get somebody that's engaged and happy at work. That's really valuable. And so that is really probably the biggest barrier to anything, is just changing the mindset and the attitudes of the person and the gatekeeper, that HR person, that manager. And so you really have to be armed with what's gonna work for them, because it's probably not what works for you. And so that's in our field, you know, not leading with the heart and the sob stories and why we wanna get people connected. Really, like, older adults can drive Cuyahoga County's economic vibrance. It can help your business. It can be a competitive advantage, and I can help and make it easier for you to do that. And that's really going to be hard for them to turn down. And so trying to figure out what are the attitudes and the biases. Thank you. I got one. I saw. Do you own a business? We'll talk after. You got it. Yeah, well, I do speak fast, yeah. I'm like almost a sales guy. I'm into managers. I'm trying to convince them immediately, like, let me tell you why you should do this. So that is like identifying what the attitudinal barriers are, and then having your counter message to that, you know, can take some time, and really the collaboration of, let's talk to some employers, what are they nervous about? And then let's make some marketing messages that attack those barriers and biases to open the door for people that we're trying to get in there.
Right, and I think we've found that businesses have told you that patrons like to see themselves in the people that work at businesses, right? I want to see people who look like me, and with a large portion of our population being older adults, having a workforce that contains older adults is really important for your patronage and for people to see themselves in the work that you do.
Yeah, and I was just going to add, like, one of our best business partners we like to talk to is the Cleveland Guardians. They're hiring people with disabilities. They're making an accessible location. Love the Guardians, probably my favorite team in Cleveland. What are they known for? What is that ownership known for? Being a little cheap, right? Like, they don't do things outside of like the economics, right? They make decisions that make sense. So they're making accessible suites. They're hiring people with disabilities, not just because it feels good, because they know it's going to lead to more ticket sales. It's going to lead to lower turnover in staff. So that is the reason you want to talk to businesses about opening their doors to older adults as employees, patrons, customers, volunteers. It's good for their business, not help us out, do us a favor. And I think that can help make the messaging easier.
Absolutely. And the Guardians are, by the way, are gunning to be the first large sporting venue here in Cleveland to put in a universal changing table. So that benefits, again, not only people with disabilities, but it benefits any person who requires that accommodation, including older adults. So Jared, continuing with employment, what are the lessons learned from your work with people with disabilities and employment that can also relate to older adults?
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys were on the right track of, you really need to start to figure out how we can make this easier for businesses. There's a lot of you in this room. There's probably a lot of different organizations. We connect with a lot of employers that go, that sounds great, thank you. How do I do it? And it can't be, here's 250 organizations that serve older adults, call them all, right? So we created an easy network, an easy system. We live in a world today, Amazon, one click. Kayak, search all the hotels and tell me which ones. Search all the flights, right? So trying to figure out a streamlined way of, once you find an organization that wants to have older adults as volunteers, as employees, how can you quickly let all of you and all of the great organizations know and get that posted at the village, get that posted at the community center, because we're all working with dozens, 20, 30, 40 people, but when we combine powers, what our employment collaborative does is 12 years ago, if a business wanted to hire someone, I had 10 people to offer. They might not have been able to get there, transportation, they might not have had the skills, the interest, the experience. Now we work with 90 partners, 500 staff, and so when I get a manager go, I would love to hire a person with a disability or an older adult, I go, let me email 500 of my closest friends, they'll talk to 30 of their closest friends, and I'll find out of the 10,000 people with barriers who's a good fit for you. So working together collaboratively and going, I have a village, I have 40, 50 residents, but I'm gonna email every village, every community around you and let them know, hey, they're looking for volunteers, it's these hours, and we can pull maybe one person from my organization, one person from your organization, and now we have 8 volunteers instead of 1 or 2. So making it simple for the businesses to work with you, the community resources, And that takes some collaboration, coming together. It creates how are we going to market and message, and it also creates that how are we going to share information. So we've gone from I used to email 50 people to now we have our own job board and an email that goes out. Home Depot and Steelyard is looking for a lot attendant. Here it is. Out it goes to 600 people. In comes the resumes, and then I can go back to the business. So figuring out what partners to bring together, and then the information system sharing of how can we get great opportunities and connections to as many older adults as possible and bridge that gap between the community and the social service system. That's a challenge. I've been working on it for 12 years, and I still barely have it down. So it's something that takes a lot of energy and effort from our system, but streamlining your supports to the community makes it easier for them to connect and work with you.
Outstanding. And I have a question on technology that I'll get to in just a moment, but I want to ask one final question, Jared, about employment. In what ways have you seen employers being creative and accommodating to older adults?
Absolutely. I think COVID was hard for everyone, but it really created an opportunity in the workspace, in the landscape. We know like businesses, restaurants closed on Mondays because they didn't have staff. So as people pulled back, we saw a lot of individuals with disabilities, older adults, that maybe wanted that part-time shift. So we had these employers, we only hire full-time, and you have to do overtime. Okay, well, the machine doesn't know if somebody works from 8 to noon and then at lunch a different person comes back, right? Like, why? Like, it just didn't really make a lot of sense for businesses to kind of make some of these arbitrary rules, but when they had a lot of people applying, they could say what they wanted. And as the workforce shifted to be more of a job seeker labor economy, they started to be more flexible. They offered different opportunities. And when they saw what those flexible work schedules done and part-time 15, 20 hours a week, which would meet the Medicaid requirements, right, that they could get more people. And so we saw manufacturers that used to run 3 12-hour shifts would now go, we have a Monday through Friday line from 9 to 2 because working moms could drop their kids off at school and go pick them up. And so that then allowed them to be more productive. So it was that idea of, again, the economics of it, don't do us a favor and make part-time jobs. You, business, should think about part-time roles because you might get 34, 40 more candidates. You're saying no one's applying, no one wants to work. Have you thought about making some changes? Maybe there's 10 older adults that would apply to this job, but you're saying it's only full-time and mandated overtime. They're watching grandkids, they don't want to do that. Make a part-time role, and that could be an economic boon to your company. Now, 6 part-time employees is 3 full-time employees. What's the difference? And so that's a lot of the changes we've seen. They're starting to be more flexible, or they were, labor market tightens. And you could take advantage of that and go, well, we have flexible workers that can fit in there and come in when you call them and things like that. So I think more employers are starting to realize the economics of working from home and being a little bit flexible and hybrids and part-time roles. And that could be a really good fit for older adults. And we've seen that as a lot more of those flexible part-time opportunities come up.
Excellent, thank you. Paul and Margaret, Jared had talked a little bit about technology and how that has benefited his work. To Paul and Margaret, how specifically can technology like social media, virtual support groups, and assistive devices help with community connectedness?
At the Westside Community House, technology can bring the world right there into that center, in that room. Recently, now, as you all know, that we are watching the Olympics. So every other day, I put on YouTube and we watched one of the Olympics. So that smartphones, we have people come out to teach them how to use their smartphone. Zoom, well, we're working on that. Yeah, we're working on getting into Zoom. But just in general, just getting people to use their device. And many of our seniors do not even own a smartphone. So we just trying to, and we also had computer classes. So they enjoyed that, learning how to use a computer. And it just bringing technology into the center, outside of home. And then just to keep the isolation down. And they're watching, we watched the Super Bowl game right there in the center. So, yeah, technology, let's see what I wrote down. And you know what I said though? I said, today I thought, aging does not mean that you are forgetting, your mind is going. It means that life is going by so fast that you just miss some things. You know, it just zoom by. You're like, oh, okay, I need to remember this. But yes, Facebook, what someone mentioned about Facebook, that's a great idea to get people on Facebook and watches. I watches. Watches, and my daughter had bought me, and I'm a senior citizen as well. My daughter bought me a watch because she wanted to, because she worries about me. I live alone, and she wanted to know about my heart, and just in the middle of the night, what would be going on with me. If something happened, my smartphone will send out a message to her. So all those technologies. So I wanted to just go back briefly earlier when he was talking about being a senior. So I was 55 years old when I received my degree from Cleveland State University. And I always felt and feel as though that it's never really too late. You just gotta wanna do things. You just gotta keep going. And at 55 years old, after graduation, I started gardening business, Eco Village Produce. So I'm very physical. So there's two parts of me, being physical and spiritually as well. So I really enjoy nature and growing and using the gifts of my hands as a senior, the gift of my voice to just help people and do things, and just being a caring individual as a senior. And life is just great at 60 plus years old. And also, I became a policy advocate for the Center for Community Solution. That's being that. I help as a community organizer. I have organized three. There's three different organizations that I done kind of help. So I started Songs for the Soul. I chair Songs for the Soul, which is every year. This will be our fourth year this year. It's a outdoor concert. So I felt the need that people need to just get to come together. So I chair this outdoor concert where we get people to come and just, they sing. And I have community tables where different communities can just come and talk about their business and share their information with us. And the community just have a really, really great time. I also helped establish and started block clubs in my community. I live in the Detroit Shoreway community, and a grandmother, and I'm wearing this because my grandson just got accepted to St. Ignatius High School. After all my prayer, there's his dream and my prayer that he gets in. So life is just good at my age, and just being involved and not giving up, just moving on. And I had not worked in 10 years before I started my job at the Westside Community House almost 2 years ago. I took care of my mom for 10 years. I took care of her, and she's went on to heaven. And so I'm just back in the workforce and doing what I could do to just be part of, continue to give of myself as a senior, as it happened. And there's one senior there, I say, when I get as old as you, I want the inspiration that she has, because this is one particular senior. She has her little walker, but she comes. She is there. I just love her. I just love her motivation to keep going, even though her mobility is, she has those issues. So.
Thank you, Margaret. Thank you so much.
Yeah, there's a lot more I could say, but.
Your story's amazing. Your story's amazing.
Thank you. Okay.
It really is. Thank you, Janet. Technology is a part of our everyday life and the operation of Village in the Heights. We use an infrastructure software called Helpful Village. It is actually designed for virtual villages. And by the way, there are over 300 of us around the country. We're all nonprofit. We're all relatively independent. Helpful Village provides everything from our support for our website to our financial transactions, member tracking, our calendarizing and activities. Our members hate it, but they have to, really, they have to RSVP to our events. We need to know whether we should plan for 5 or 50. And some folks have not done that. We've started working with them. We have a weekly news blast. We're now going to be using the newsletter, or the infrastructure software for a monthly newsletter that one of our members decided we have to have. So they are the editor, and it's on them, and we're helping. Basically, we try and meet people where they are, as Natasha said. There are some people who just refuse to look on the computer or hate the smartphone that their kids got for them on their plan. We work with them to learn how to do that. We have tech people from repair service companies that come in and teach on smartphones and on laptops. And if they still don't get it, okay, we call them up and tell them. And we send them mail, and actually print out the calendar instead of saying look it up, and put it in snail mail. You have to reach people.
Thank you, Paul. I think you all three made a great point. Again, like you said with accessibility, Margaret, if you can't use the tech, you can't access the benefits of the tech. And I'd also like to say my kid wanted my husband and I on Life 360 so he would know where we are all the time. Now I'm a little bit worried.
Location.
He thinks we're old and we're going to get lost out there.
Yeah, location. Yep.
He didn't care that he's 24. He didn't care that we knew where he was. He just wanted to know where we were all the time. So thank you so much, everybody, for sharing your expertise with us today. And I would love to open up questions to the rest of the room. And I know we've got some microphones, one over there and one over there. Yeah. Doug? Oh, there we go.
I think this panel was very timely because it kind of reinforces everything I spoke on, that Emily spoke on. We often, as professionals, look at something very large scale, like I think you mentioned. It's not about recreating the slices of the pie. It's about looking what we have right in front of us and we're not taking advantage of. So you guys just all kind of gave me inspiration as I sit here and think about just little things. Sending it out, the schedule. Considering older people have a special gift as well. It might be a timing issue, but they want to work. And some want to work for socialization, some want to work because of necessity. But nobody should begrudge them because they want to return to the workforce or be taught something new. And also, the idea of the senior center, that connection, that's a lifeline, right? You're prolonging potentially someone's life by sharing a meal with them.
Absolutely.
So I think it is us thinking smarter, wiser, and just doing things to really change our paradigm, because I think we get so caught up in we've got to rescue things that we don't realize that it might be just a very simple fix that we're not taking advantage of. But thank you. You were wonderful, all of you.
And we exercise every day. Every day. They really love that.
Hello. I just want to say thank you for your time today because Natasha, I couldn't agree more. Very inspirational because it made me think how in our organization, I work at Cleveland Rape Crisis Center, and we just celebrated our 50 years not too long ago. And Cleveland Rape Crisis Center started with a hotline, a volunteer hotline, one phone, Wednesday nights. And look where we are now. And our hotline is our 24/7 access to survivors in our community. And so I'm thinking, like, we're always hiring, we're always looking for talent, and I'm like, oh my God, let's be hybrid. Let's rethink this. And Jared, thank you, very timely, because I'm gonna go back to the camp and I'm gonna huddle with my team, and we're gonna think about how to integrate some of these innovative ways for how we can engage the community. I mean, I'm a board member, but now I'm like, wait a minute, there's more for me to do. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
See, we convinced one business already to do it. It was that easy. It's that easy to go out there.
Today, we spoke a lot about isolation and mental health. You talked, Jared, about, people who are willing to hire people who have disabilities. And I feel that it's a little easier to accept people with disabilities when they're physical, when you can see them, okay. But what about the seniors who are currently in isolation? They have mental health issues and concerns going on. They don't really have anyone to talk to, but they would like to rejoin the workforce. How do you address that?
It's a great question. So 70% of disabilities are what we'd call invisible. You're not going to be able to identify it immediately, so we do have that challenge. I actually agree with that completely. I think sometimes businesses, when they see someone in a wheelchair, they can kind of identify quickly, okay, what accommodations do I need to put in? Maybe you get somebody with, in my field, like on the autism spectrum, that struggles a little bit in an interview, and businesses just start to get a little bit nervous about that support. Like, I understand when there's a physical barrier, that solution tends to just be a little bit easier. It's in the physical space. I put in a ramp, I get a chair, I do a mat. How do I support somebody, and the uniqueness of mental health just becomes the challenge. And so for us, it's again the idea of like, we're here to help you. I'm your resource if you have questions. So the businesses in that space of, I want to do it, I'm interested, most of it becomes like ignorance, and ignorance isn't the worst thing. It's just that they don't know. And that I'm going to hold your hand through it, and if and when a problem comes up, we'll talk through that individual situation. So I think it becomes, in the most part, from a business lens of like, if I'm going to take this leap, I'm a little bit worried I might get a discrimination case, an ADA claim. And so when you're just there of, I'll be here, here's my card, call me if a problem comes, I'll come up the next day, and walking through those individualized solutions gives them the freedom to try it. Because in our field, like, one person with autism is one person with autism, much like one senior is one older adult is one older adult. So all I can do is, when that unique concern, problem comes up, we'll talk through it, and I'll try to give you guidance the best that I can. And hopefully that gives them that safety net of like, Jared will be here to answer any problems. Like, I don't need to be afraid. I can give it a try. I'm not going to put myself in legal liability. I'm going to get some guidance. And it doesn't always work, but I do think you're right. People do get a little bit more fearful of that kind of like invisible disability, mental health, because they're not as comfortable with it. So you just got to have somebody there to convince them that will help you through those challenges. And hopefully that can alleviate the concerns.
I would just like to say, last year we had a resource fair, and we actually did the footwork. There was about 4 of us. We went out door to door and knocked on doors, and we gave them the flyers, and we let them know that we're there. We're here to help them.
I would also ask the group, just for one interactive thing today as we end, shout out, what are the benefits of hiring older adults? Wisdom, knowledge, wisdom, reliability, experience. Yes. Reliability, attitude, being at work on time.
Energy.
Okay, so you just created the pitch, right? Jared had talked earlier, find the pitch and tailor it to the person that's listening to you. And you just named all of these great benefits of hiring older adults. That's what you use to create that narrative and sell your pitch. Why hiring older adults is a really good thing. Do we have any more questions? Oh, yeah.
Just when we talk about hiring older adults, when you're having conversations with businesses, do they bring up anything related to the insurance cost and how some of their concerns hiring somebody who is older may be driving up the prices of the insurance that they then have to offer?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So for most of the people that we work with and people with disabilities, it could be like workers' comp insurance. They're worried about like the injury and the liability, but there's really no increase in premiums in that. I think one of the things where we focus on a lot of the flexibility for people with disabilities and older adults is sometimes they want the part-time role that keeps them getting Medicaid. So that actually can be a cost benefit for the company of an older adult or a person with a disability just wants 20 hours, they get Medicaid. I can actually save a ton of money on my health insurance premiums by not having to offer that because the person doesn't want that. We really don't tend to get into those kind of nuances because it is a little bit more of an individualized thing. So there could be that thought. I always am like, as I'm talking to businesses, trying to sell the positives, that there are going to be some barriers that may be potential. People with developmental disabilities, they come to work more often, but they also take more sick days, right? So like so there are the pros and the cons. That may be one where an older adult is going to have some higher insurance premiums or be, but may not be if they want to work part-time or if they've got their insurance through other things. So we're trying to talk through those benefits and really that is. But yeah, you have to know the whole picture of where there could be some cons to this, but I think on the scale of it, maybe you do pay a little bit more in insurance, but the turnover's lower. That's very expensive for companies. They're taking less time off. That's expensive for companies. All of these other things should negate that price, even if it exists at all. So on the rare case that does come up, all those added pros are going to outweigh the cons. So yeah, you do want to give the full picture, but I still think on the net, it's going to be very beneficial to hire an older adult, even if that might be one of the small issues.
Question back here. Are there any current tax benefits that the employer would get? Can they get extra deductions, extra expense deductions for hiring a disabled person?
Excellent question. So there's the Work Opportunity Tax Credit. It's through WIOA, the Workforce Innovation and Opportunities Act. That gives employers $2,400. It's a max credit of $2,400, which is 50% of someone's wages up to that cap of $4,800. So if you're hiring a part-time older worker and they make $5,000 in a year, like they're just working a few days a week or whatever that is, you're going to basically get half of their wages back as a tax credit. So we bring that in very late. Our main selling point is they're productive, they're loyal, they're good. You should just hire anyone that can get the job done, shows up, and wants to work here. That's kind of the cherry on top. But it does help give them some financial incentive.
Can you tell us what a tax credit is versus a tax deduction?
Yes. So great again. The tax credit is an actual credit. It's $2,400 either back in cash if you're not paying taxes or deducted from your tax bill. So when we work with some companies, CVS, Giant Eagle, they really, groceries is expensive, but they only make about 2% margin, 3%. So they always say like they need to sell $70,000 in groceries to make $2,400. You hire a person with a disability or a older adult, you're both getting the good worker and you're getting that money right back. So that is that kind of added incentive for a tax credit. You're a small business, you want to hire somebody part-time, flexible, now you're not paying the health insurance, you're getting a valuable employee, you're getting someone that can come in, maybe they have a wide schedule, and you're getting $2,400 back. Like as a small business owner, that's a huge value. And so those are some of the things that you're going to want to look for in your marketing pitch. Why hire older adults? They're reliable, they've got experience, they're flexible, they show up, they have high engagement and a tax credit. It starts to paint that whole picture of all of those wins of why it works. So looking for any value to the business is really important, and that can be one of the selling points.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
All right, well, it looks like we are exactly at the time we said we would be for questions. So thank you all for those wonderful questions. And let's give a round of applause to our fantastic panel.
It's me again. Janet, Jared, Paul, and Margaret, thank you all so much. That was excellent. And Margaret, you mentioned aging and how fast it goes. Yeah. I'm sure you're aware of this. Aging is like toilet paper. The closer you get to the end, the faster it goes. Really, what a great conversation. And each of you brought such depth and real-world experience to the discussion. And we so appreciate your wisdom and that you contributed here. There's no doubt that this could have gone on and on and on, especially with such a thoughtful audience with great questions. Your questions truly reflect a desire to make a difference, and that is very inspiring. All right, Natasha, we would love to welcome you back to let everyone know how they can remain connected and take the next steps to engage with DSAS.
So again, I just want to thank everyone for joining us this morning. I guess the weather made it a little bit easier, so I'm glad we still have sunshine and warmth. It's supposed to snow on Sunday. But anyway, I didn't mean to go there. I just want to remind everyone to sign up for our DSAS newsletter. We have a lot of stuff that we'll be doing in livable Cuyahoga, and we're going to roll out dates and registration. So if you're not attached to that newsletter, please make sure that you are, and also share that with residents, with patients, with clients that you're seeing, because these events in the community are truly open for them. They're designed with them in mind. It speaks to our panelists and what they're trying to do in their communities, at their centers, in the realm of employment. And we really thought to be proactive because we knew these changes were coming with SNAP and Medicaid. We're going to kick off towards the end of April. I believe it's April 27th. We have an employment resource fair. I just kind of thought of a catchy name, to return to the office. So that's coming, so be on the lookout for that. We're developing the program, but really getting people acclimated to doing a resume, understanding how to interview, what you do on your phone and computer to, do an application, because you don't just show up anymore, and there's very seldom paper applications out there. And then we have some other social participation and engagement stuff that we'll be also working on that are more fun and social in nature. And then we have in May, we're partnering with Mary McNamara, City of Cleveland, Mara Lane, to do our second transportation mobility fair, and this is going to be on the west side of Cleveland. And that one's probably more than likely at Gunning. But that's right after they're done with Senior Day, which is a huge endeavor. So we're giving Mary like a week break so that she can recoup from that. And then we have a housing forum that we're trying to pull together to really look about where is affordable housing, where is accessible housing, what does it take to make something that doesn't maybe necessarily really work for older adults, that's affordable and builds them a sense of security and safety as well, in the event that they can't remain in their home or they need to downsize, right? It's their option to decide how they choose to live. But my marching orders from this event is that everyone go out of here and do something great. Whether it is connect with a colleague in the next few weeks, talk about maybe something small scale in your own environment, but something that you can pull from today that will actually make this transition into something viable. So I thank you all for joining us. Again, get that newsletter. It talks about other stuff. We have Elder Abuse Awareness in June. We have our annual summit, the Aging and Disability Summit that we partner with Metro Health and Western Reserve Area Agency on, and we're planning that as we speak. So I just want to wish everyone a great weekend, and I hope the snow doesn't come.
Oh, all righty then. Thank you, Natasha. Your closing reflections bring us back to the heart of today's theme, which is connecting older adults socially, civically, and economically. And I think as we all think and ponder on everything we've heard, it's clear that connection is not just social. It is tied to purpose, contribution, caregiving, opportunity, and access. Today's conversation also challenges us to consider how older adults remain engaged in meaningful ways, how families and communities support one another across generations, and how policies and systems shape what is possible. We all have a responsibility, every single one of us, to create pathways that are inclusive and accessible. And the reporter in my heart that has not retired spent a little time preparing for today, and in 2023, that's the most recent research I could find, the U.S. Surgeon General declared loneliness as an official public health epidemic, and that half of adults, not just 65 and over, half of adults experience measurable levels of loneliness. The premature death rates are comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Social isolation and loneliness increase your risk of death more than smoking and obesity. It's linked to an increase in cardiovascular disease, strokes, dementia, and depression. Those are sobering statistics, but we can all do something. And what I challenge, I just started bus trips. I got on Facebook. I was tired of, you saw the dog I live with. That's all I have, besides my church community. But, you know, on a daily basis, I don't see people. So I went on Facebook and said, hey, does anybody want to go to blah, blah, blah? I load up buses and we go all kinds of places. But I challenge you to reach out to a person who you know is alone and just make a phone call. Just check on them or send a text. Hey, what are you doing? Are you okay? Just thinking about you. It'll make a world of difference, I promise. As we wrap up the Cuyahoga County Senior and Adult Services 5th Annual Advisory Board meeting, I want to thank each and every single one of you for being here, for listening, for asking thoughtful questions, and engaging in this very important conversation. A special note of gratitude once again to our outstanding presenters and the Cuyahoga County Board of Developmental Disabilities, the Cleveland Foundation, and the Western Reserve Area on Agency for their Agency on Aging for their ongoing support and partnership. We could not put on this event without their support. And a quick reminder, before you head out, we'd love to hear from you. Please take a moment to scan the QR code, either on the screen or on the centerpieces at your table. This will take you to the event survey. Your feedback is incredibly important. And if you did not like me, remember my name is Wilma Smith. That's M-S-I-N. Truly, your thoughts and suggestions help me. It never gets old, never gets old. Your thoughts and suggestions help make this event even better and ensure that it's an event that you'll want to come back to and participate and bring friends. I am Robin Swoboda, and it has been an honor and a privilege and a pleasure to be your MC once again this year. Have a great day and no snow.